Okay. Good evening, my dear students. I am back again with a new topic. Today we shall be discussing a few questions on logical reasoning. I am very sure that all of you are familiar with logical reasoning questions. Logical reasoning questions are slightly different from the so-called general reasoning questions that you may do. General reasoning questions are more mathematically precise. 2 plus 3 is always 5. But the logical reasoning questions are slightly more difficult. Why? Because logics of people differ. Your logic and my logic are different. The same thing we may look at with different attitude and different kind of approaches will be there. So the real challenge is this: can people having different logics arrive at one single correct answer and score the mark? So my approach will be to define different kinds of questions, or different kinds of questions that would come under different headlines. We know that there are questions on assumptions, course of action, conclusion, inference, etc., etc. So when such questions come, I shall try to define. In fact, in our mobile application, I have already given the basic notes. So you are requested to read the basic notes very thoroughly and master. I shall speak, when I teach, I shall speak about the basic rules of doing the questions, but you are requested to read that basic notes of logical reasoning, which I have given in one of the days of our courses. Make sure that you read that and you master them. So let us begin with a few questions. Please read this question. This is a question on assumption. Repeat your recruitment ads on Sunday for just ₹60 per square centimeter, an advertisement in a newspaper. People want ads to zero cost. There are some people who want to repeat their recruitment ads. You are given a few seconds to answer the question. You please post your answers. Is it that only one assumption, first assumption is implicit, or the second is implicit, either one or two, neither one or two, or both 1 and 2? What's your answer? Quickly give your answers. I am yet to get in response from many of my students. Good afternoon, everybody. Make sure that you give your answers. Okay. Listen, what is an assumption? In my notes, these are well specified, but still I shall repeat. An assumption is something taken for granted or something what is supposed. An assumption is something taken for granted or something what is supposed. What is meant by taken for granted? Taken for granted means what is latent in the statement. You need not specify specifically. It is latent in the statement. It is given in the statement. So only that thing will make what is taken for granted. What is supposed to means the expected outcome. I ask you to post a letter. I give a letter to you and ask and request, please post this letter for me. So what I take it for granted is that you know how to post a letter. What is expected or what I suppose is that you may post the letter for me, you may do the job for me. Only these two things will form an assumption. I have given a few features also. What are the features? 1. An assumption must be implicit in the given statement. an assumption forms the basis of the statement. You have to take everything that is given in the statement to be true. You are not supposed to go beyond what is given in the statement, and a mere rehashing of the statement cannot form an assumption, meaning a statement in itself cannot become an assumption. So these are the features that are given in the notes. You are again requested to go through the notes many times. Now keep this in mind when we do this question. What does the question say? I'm sorry. Repeat your ad, recruitment ad on Sunday for just 60 rupees. Repeat your ad. This itself is an advertisement. Repeat your ad for just 60 rupees. Why this is given? So what is in the mind of the person who has given this ad is what the assumption is. For just 60 rupees per square meter centimeter means, if he has emphasized the cost, it is just 60 rupees per square meter. It means that people are concerned about the cost of the ad, that is there. People are concerned about the cost of the ad. If such an assumption is given, then it would be correct. But here, people want ads to cost 0 is not there. People don't want the ad to cost 0, but people want their ad to cost less, that is there. So first one is ruled out. Second, there are some people who want to repeat their recruitment ads is there. That is a very valid assumption. Listen, I give an advertisement in a newspaper. I need a 3-bedroom flat in the College Junction area. When I say that I need a 3-bedroom flat in the College Junction area, and when the ad is given, what I keep in mind is that there are people who have 3-bedroom flats in the College Junction area. They may respond to my ad, and in the end I may get a 3-bedroom flat. These are the assumptions that I keep in mind. So the second one is a classical assumption. There are some people who want to repeat their recruitment ads. So our answer is only 2. The second option is our answer. I think it is very clear to you. Is it clear to you all? Please give me a response quickly. Yes, most of you got the correct answer. I am happy. Quickly, have you all understood this? Okay, by the time I am just moving on to the next question. This is again a question on assumption. You are given 40 seconds. Good that you have understood. Quit drinking before it destroys you. A notice issued in public interest by XYZ department. People fear of being destroyed. People are scared of being destroyed. Drinking breaks the drinker's family. Tell me what are what is or are the probable assumption or assumptions. Quit drinking before it destroys you. Very good. I have started getting the answers and they are correct. Only 1 is the assumption. Listen, quit drinking before it destroys you. This ad is given in public interest. Quit drinking before it destroys you. When the ad maker makes a statement before it destroys you, he warns the people that drinking will destroy you. So, why such a warning is given? Because he believes that that warning will have some effect. So, people are scared of being destroyed is there, it is a classic assumption. The second one, drinking breaks the drinker's family, could be true, we do not know, but that is not an assumption. That is not an assumption. Drinking breaks drinker's family is not an assumption, because that is not implicit in the given statement. So, our answer is only 1, the first assumption. The third one, please read the statement first. It is alarming to note that only 48 to 50% of the voters voted in state X. The government must make it mandatory for all to exercise their franchise in order to make the democracy more meaningful. View of a voter. Increase in the participation of voters will ensure increase in the rationality of the democratic setup. Making it mandatory for all to exercise their franchise may increase the number of voters. What is your answer? When the voter makes a statement of this kind, what all goes through his mind? That is what your assumption is. That will be your answer. It is alarming to note that only 48 to 50% of the voters voted in state X. Then he suggests, what is the suggestion? That the government must make it mandatory for all to exercise their franchise in order to make democracy more meaningful. Who will give a statement of this kind? Is the choice 1, 2, 3 or 4, 3, 4 or 5, which is correct? Arya has given 3 and 5, what is that? Oh, is it that question number 3, the answer is 5, could be, okay, fine, good, thank you. Listen, increase the participation of voters, increase in the participation of voters will ensure increase in rationality of democratic setup. It is clearly there. That is why he says, first of all he is concerned about the poor voter turnout. Second, he make a suggestion, make it mandatory that people vote, and that will make democracy more meaningful. Only a person who believes in this assumption will make a statement of this kind. That is why I said in the beginning that a statement is a valid assumption is the basis of a statement. Increase in participation will ensure increase in the rationality of democratic setup is clearly there. Only a person who believes they are like this will make a statement of this kind. So, first one is there, it is a valid assumption. Making it mandatory for all to exercise their franchise may increase the number of voters is also there. Listen, there is a small mistake. It will not increase the number of voters, but it will increase voting. So, I take it as a printing mistake. Making it mandatory to exercise their franchise may increase the number of voters is wrong. Number of voters will not increase, but if it is made mandatory, voting will increase. So, I have just changed it to voting and pass it. So, the answer is the fifth option. Keep in mind that increase voting. I think the point I made is clear. There could be a small mistake in printing, in typing, so please give a room for that. I think it is clear to you. I am proceeding. This is a question on argument. Should there be a call center? Should there be call centers for farmers? Yes, the move will facilitate farmers to obtain information related to agriculture in order to increase agriculture produce. No, our poor farmers are unable to bear the burden of the cost charged for the service. So you have to think what makes an argument strong. An argument becomes strong if you cite the relevant aspects of the topic and argue. If you cite the irrelevant or minor aspects of the topic and argue, the argument becomes weak. This is what we have learned, this is what I have given you in the notes. An argument becomes strong if you cite the relevant aspects of the topic and argue, and an argument becomes weak if you cite the irrelevant or minor aspects of the topic and argue. So you should know what are the relevant aspects of the topic. This is why I ask every day while I am doing the news analysis that you should read the newspapers. When you read the newspapers, you will get connected with what is happening around you, and most of the questions of these days are contemporaneous in nature. So you all are requested to read the newspapers, then you will know what are the relevant points with regard to different issues. Should there be a call center for farmers? Yes, the move will facilitate farmers to obtain information related to agriculture in order to increase agriculture produce. That is a very clear-cut, strong argument. You are speaking very much within the quote, very much within the subject, very relevant also. We know that in India there is a call center for farmers, and that is available 24/7, and farmers can get information regarding any inputs that may require from through the call center. Experts will answer them. So that is a reality. When you speak about the strength of the argument, you can take into account all the knowledge and information that you have gathered through your reading and observation. What you have observed, what you have read can be used. Mind you, in the case of assumption, you are not supposed to do that. You have to be well within the statement. You are not supposed to think beyond the statement in the case of assumptions. But in the case of arguments, you can take into account all the knowledge and information that you have gathered through your reading and observation. So we know that there is a call center for farmers, and we know that farmers may call and they will get inputs from experts through the call center. So first one is a reality. It makes the argument strong. No, our poor farmers are unable to bear the burden of cost charged for the service is not a strong argument, because that is ridiculing the argument, ridiculing the question rather. So the first one is a very strong argument. Athira says it is 3. 3 means either 1 or 2 is strong. No, Athira, the second one is ruled out. That is not going to be a strong argument, while the first is. The fifth question starts. Should it be made mandatory for major branches of nationalized banks in each city to change soiled notes? Yes, these branches have a good network, not have to. Have a good network and enjoy more vicinity with the common man in comparison to other branches, and thus will be helpful in ensuring clean note policy of RBI. No, the major branches have a lot of work to do. Making it mandatory to change the soiled notes will increase the burden of these banks and affect badly on their efficiency. Please go through. Yes, the time is up. Question number 5. Should it be made mandatory for major banks of nationalized banks in each city to change soiled notes? Yes, these branches have a good network and enjoy more vicinity with the common man in comparison with other branches, and thus will be helpful in ensuring clean note policy of RBI. No, the major branches have a lot of work to do. Making it mandatory to change soiled notes will increase the burden of these banks and affect badly on their efficiency. What's your answer? Listen, we know that Reserve Bank of India ensures the quality of notes in circulation by issuing fresh currencies and withdrawing mutilated currencies, and it's an ongoing process. So the withdrawal of mutilated currencies or soiled notes is done through banks, commercial banks. So that is a very necessary thing. Should it be made mandatory for major banks, branches of nationalized banks in each city to change soiled notes? The first one says yes, these branches have good network and enjoy more vicinity with the common man in comparison with other branches, and thus will be helpful in ensuring clean note policy. Is a very clear cut argument, excellent argument, that makes the argument strong. They cite the reason why should the major branches be asked to change soiled notes for public, that is there. Second, no, the major branches have a lot of work to do, and making it mandatory will make increase the burden of these banks. That is not an argument, because changing soiled notes for customers is one of the duties of the banks and the branches. So the second one is far away, and that is not an assumption. So only one is a strong argument. I think things are clear to you. I am proceeding. Question number 6, please read. This is the new format. People in a South African tribe have observed that heavy rains are usually preceded by claps of thunder. They are convinced that the heavy rains are somehow caused by the claps of thunder. Which of the following, if true, would weaken the tribal's conviction? There is also a small printing mistake. It has to be apostrophe S. Tribal's conviction. Tribal's conviction is that it is the claps of thunder that brings heavy rains. They believe and they are convinced, they have observed and they are convinced that it is the claps of thunder that bring heavy rains. What will weaken that? What will weaken that should prove the tribals wrong. What is their observation and conviction? It is the claps of thunder that bring heavy rains. To weaken that, the fact should be that it is not the claps of thunder that bring heavy rains. My answer is, what is your answer? Please give me your answer. I have got my answer already, and the answer is the second option. The presence of rain bearing clouds is the reason for heavy rains as well as the claps of thunder. So the reality is that it is the presence of rain bearing clouds that is the reason for heavy rains as well as the claps of thunder. The tribals believe that it is the claps of thunder that bring heavy rains, but the reality is that it is the rain bearing clouds that bring both the heavy rains as well as claps of thunder. So the second one negates the belief of the tribals, and that weakens the tribals' conviction. The answer is the second option. Is it clear to you all? Hello, please tell me, is it clear? Quickly answer, is it clear to you? Give me the response, I am proceeding. Okay, thank you. Good to see that you all have understood. Okay. Professor KJ argued that the method of evaluation of teachers used at IIM Bangalore, where students evaluate the teachers, was not a valid measure of teaching quality. Students should fill the questionnaires at the end of the term where the course have been completed. Which of the following, if true, will support Professor KJ's proposal? Listen. Here Professor KJ has made an observation and he has made a suggestion too. What is the observation? The observation is that the teacher evaluation method followed in IIM-B is wrong, is not a valid measure of teaching quality, and he makes a suggestion. What is the suggestion? Students should be asked to fill out the questionnaires at the end of the course. They should be asked to fill up the questionnaires at the end of the term, end of the program. Then what should support? Under the present system, students were made to evaluate teachers mid-term. That supports. Under the present system, students were asked to evaluate their teachers mid-term. So that really supports Professor KJ's proposal. So the answer is the second option. I think it is a very easy take for you. The answer is the second. That, listen, under the present system, students were made to evaluate their teachers mid-term. What is Professor KJ's suggestion? Is that students should fill out questions at the end of the term, and he says that this is not a valid measure. Not a valid measure. So the evaluation at the end of the term is the valid measure, mid-term is not the valid measure. That is the essence of what Professor KJ says. I am proceeding. 8th question. Please read. If the islanders are doomed to have local self-governance, and it is the islanders who have determined this, then they should be ready to bear the negative consequences of local self-governance, said a British colonist as he left the shores of the island he was governing. Which of the following, if true, would weaken this argument? Nitin has asked me, could you please give an example on argument assumption that comes under, in fact Nitin, I am not able to read it completely. Okay, when it is scrolled up, I am not able to scroll up, I shall get back to you. If the islanders are doomed to have local self-governance, this is what the leaving colonist says. This is a British colonist who was about to leave the shore. He says, if you islanders doomed to have local self-governance, then it is the islanders who have determined this. Then you should be ready to bear the negative consequence of local self-governance. While leaving the island, the colonists say, you have decided for local self-governance, then you have to bear the negative consequences of local self-governance. What will weaken his argument? So this person believes that islanders are not good enough to govern themselves. What will weaken this argument must say that islanders are good enough to govern. Local rulers are always more interested in development of their country than foreign colonies. Local self-governance is not a child's play. That is an assumption. Local self-governance is not a child's play, is an assumption, because that is what the British colonist keeps in mind when he says his statement. But what would weaken is islanders are equally qualified. This is the answer. Islanders are equally qualified and competent, if not more than the colonists, to run their own government, will definitely weaken this statement. British colonists say that what he keeps in mind is that the islanders do not know, they are not competent to govern themselves. But this statement will totally weaken his belief, because it says that islanders are equally qualified and competent, if not more than the colonists, to run their own government. So our answer is the third option. Ninth question. A car magazine report, the average mileage in the small car market was found to be 18 kilometers per litre. The average mileage was calculated by taking cars of all manufacturers in the segment, filling them with 10 litres of fuel and driving them along the Mumbai-Pune expressway. However, for the car the mileage was 22 kilometers per litre. Clearly, if you want to buy a new car, you should buy Karadi. Please read. When a statement is made by the report, what does the statement maker keep in mind? That is the assumption. The average mile of most of the cars, mileage in the small car market segment was found to be 18 kilometers per litre. And now they continue to say how the average mile is calculated. But for Karudi, another car, it is 22 kilometers per hour. Average is 18. But for this particular brand, it is 22. Then he continues to say, clearly, if you want to buy a new car, you should buy the 𝐵. What is his argument? The average is much better, 18 and here it is 22. So you should buy the car with 22 kilometers. Which of the following assumption does the magazine make? Magazine makes the assumption that mileage is the sole consideration of the readers of the magazine who intend to buy a car. That is why, based on the mileage performance alone, the car company suggests people to buy or recommend 𝐵. So the answer is the second option. I think it is clear to you. Okay, let me read Nitin's could you please give us an example of argument or assumption that comes under either or? Okay, I shall come with such questions, Mr. Nitin. I shall come, definitely come. Not today, I shall come with questions, don't worry. The 10th question, again the statement is the same. The average mileage in the small cars market was found to be 18 kilometers per litre. The average mileage was calculated by taking cars of all manufacturers in the segment, filling them with 10 litres of fuel and driving them along the Mumbai-Pune expressway. However, for 𝐵, the mileage was 22 kilometers per litre. Clearly, if you want to buy a new car, you should buy the 𝐵. Arya asked me, so why can't we consider the third one as an argument in the 8th question? Let me see if we can go back. Listen, which of the following additional information makes the argument stronger? This question has got connection with the previous question, the additional information. So you should not speak about the information that has already been used to answer the previous question. What was the argument? In the previous question, mileage was the argument. Generally, cars have got 18 kilometers per litre, but 𝐵, this particular brand, has got 22 kilometers per litre, so it was recommended. So the sole consideration was mileage. What can be the additional consideration? That's the question. My answer is the second option, only two, the second option. Besides mileage, mileage has already been considered. So you may be tempted to go for the first one. Petrol prices have touched the sky, and hence the reader should be preliminarily interested in saving fuel cost while purchasing the new car. That is already considered. That is already considered under the head mileage. What is the additional information? The additional information is, besides mileage, 𝐵 scored the best 9 out of 10 performance indicators used to buy the survey. The second option is correct. Okay, 9th question. Okay, that's what Arya says. I shall go back to 9th question. 9th question, what was your, why can't we consider third one? No other car in the segment has got a better mileage than 𝐵's mileage. Listen, an assumption is something taken for granted or something what is supposed. Make it very clear. This is the question and you are asked to find only one choice. So there is no, one of the reasons is that there is no second and third. No other car in the segment has a mileage better than 𝐵's mileage is clearly stated in the statement. A mere rehashing of the statement cannot form an assumption. Go to my notes and read the 5th point. If my memory is anything to go by, the 5th point. A mere rehashing of the statement cannot form an assumption. A statement which is remade cannot become an assumption. An assumption is the hidden meaning. Okay, I think it is clear to you now. So this question is also answered. I am moving further. 11th question. Most citizens are very conscientious about observing a law when they can see the reason behind it. For instance, there has been very little need to actively enforce the recently implemented law that increased the penalty for godmen duping people for their money by playing with their emotions. This is because citizens are very conscientious about duping someone in the name of religion, as it leaves their religious gurus with a bad name. Which of the following statements would the author in the passage most likely to believe? This particular author has made a statement of this kind. What he keeps in mind when he made a statement of this kind? That's a question, meaning a kind of an assumption. What does he believe when he made the statement? He says that most citizens are very conscientious about observing a law when they understand, when they know, when they can see the reason behind it. If you tell people why such a law has come, then people go by it, people understand it, people observe it, people comply by it. That's the statement maker says. And he cites an example. Recently there was a law that made increased penalty for godmen duping people for their money and by playing with their emotions. This particular law was well taken by the people because their religious gurus are taken in bad taste. So they accepted the law. They accepted the law because they understood the very purpose of the law. That's what the statement maker says. If people understand why the law is there, then they go by the law. They do obey the law. That's the idea. What is he most likely to believe? Society should make an effort. Society should make an effort to teach citizens the reasons for its laws. If the reasons for laws are understood properly, people will believe. Only a person who believes this will make a statement of this kind. So the answer is the fourth option. The fourth option. The 12th question. At a rally in the Moinul-Haq Stadium, candidate Lalu exclaimed, "Nearly everyone at the rally is behind me. It looks as if I am going to be elected." Which of the following statements, if true, best supports the above conclusion? So what's the conclusion? The conclusion is this: Lalu says that I am going to win the election. He is concluding. What is a conclusion? A conclusion is something that goes beyond any doubt, that logically follows beyond any reasonable doubt. So he believes that he is going to win the election. Beyond doubt, he believes that he is going to win the election. Which of the best supports the above conclusion? Which of the following statements, if true, best supports the conclusion? Listen, there are 1,000 people in front of me. I am addressing a gathering of 1,000 people from a village, and I am contesting an election in this village. I say that nearly everyone who sits in front of me supports me. So I am very sure that I am going to win. 1,000 people are attending the gathering, and I find that almost everyone, say 850 people or 800 people, have raised their hands that they will vote for me. If this is to become a reality, then the rally was attended by almost all. 1,000 people have attended, 800 people supported me. If there are 3,000 people in the village, and out of which only 1,000 attended and majority supported, I cannot say that I will win, because 2,000 people are yet to come. So that cannot be the situation. The situation can be that the rally was attended by almost everybody. There are, say, 1,100 people in the village, most of the people, almost everybody has attended, 1000 people have attended, within that a majority have raised their hands, then they said that they would vote for me, then I can conclude that I will win. So the answer is the second option. Question number 13. The local education authorities in India have recently issued a prescribed list of books that are approved for reading in schools by children aged between 5 and 11. A furrow, there is a spelling mistake, I am sorry for that, F-U-R-O-R-E. A furrow has arisen among many parents because the authoress by the name Pooja Mehta, very popular with children, has been omitted from the said list. When asked to comment on the omission, the head of the committee that was responsible for preparing the list of books said that the books of Miss Pooja Mehta have been omitted because we thought they are of an inferior quality and do not sufficiently stimulate the children's intellectual ability, and not because they contain characters which are stereotypes or may show racial prejudice. So this is the issue. Which of the following can be inferred? What is the inference? An inference is something that is not directly stated but can only be inferred. Please refer to my notes. What is an inference? An inference is something that is not directly stated but can only be inferred. An inference is something that is likely to be true from the statements of facts given. So two things must come to your mind when you read about inference. One, an inference is something that is likely to be true. Two, an inference is something that is not directly stated but can only be inferred. These are the two things that should come to your mind. Here, a prescribed list of books is announced for school children between 5 and 11. For school children between 5 and 11, a list of books are announced, and everybody thought that Pooja Mehta, a very popular writer, her books would find their entry into the list, but that was missing. In the list, her books were missing. Now, and there was a furrow, there was a confusion regarding that, and there was a hue and cry against the list. That is meant by furrow. Furrow means a kind of a criticism, heavy criticism. There was a criticism by parents that you must have included Pooja Mehta's book, and they were not included, and that is why the confusion and the protests. So as a clarification, the committee member says, what the committee says? The committee that was responsible for including the books said, Pooja Mehta's books have been omitted because we thought they are of inferior quality and do not sufficiently stimulate children's intellectual ability, and not because they obtain characters which are stereotypes or may show racial prejudice. The committee says that we have excluded Pooja Mehta's books not because they are of inferior quality, we have excluded Pooja Mehta's book because we thought, the committee thinks that they are of inferior quality and they do not sufficiently stimulate children's intellectual ability, and not because, what is the clarification? Not because the characters are stereotyped or show racial prejudice. If such a clarification is given, then what the committee keeps in mind is that there are people who believe that Pooja Mehta's books were excluded. Why? Because they contain characters that are stereotypes and may show racial prejudice. So the inference is that there was an opinion that Pooja Mehta's books were omitted because they contain characters that were stereotyped or showed racial prejudice. Yes, the first option is the answer. There was an opinion. There was an opinion that Pooja Mehta's books were omitted because they contain characters that were stereotyped or showed racial prejudice. That is why the committee made a clarification that that is not the reason. It is not because they contain characters that are stereotypes and may show racial prejudice. So our answer is the first option. I think it is clear to you. Question number 14. In 1980, the average per capita, I am sorry for continuous typographical errors, not per capita telephone consumption in India was 1 telephone per 100 people. By 2005, the figure became 1 telephone per 8 people. In 1980, there was only 1 telephone per 100 people, but by 2005 it is 1 telephone per 8 people. Which of the, if each of the following, if true, could explain this trend except? What is the trend? That per capita telephone availability has many-folded. That is the trend. Cost of owning telephones has gone down. That can explain. Getting telephone collection has been simplified and waiting lines have been eliminated. That can explain. There has been an increase in affluence and disposable income amongst country's vast middle class. That can explain. When people's income go up, they will go for these sort of, when their disposable incomes go up, people will go for telephones, televisions, tape recorders, computers, etc., etc. Disposable income determines purchase of all these so-called luxury goods. So the first one, the third one and the fourth one best explain this, the reason for increase in per capita telephone consumption, but the second one may not. So our answer is the second option. There has been a privatization of telecom sector in 1990s. It could be true, but that is nowhere explained here. Privatization could be the reason, that is could be a true reality, but these three things explain while the second one does not. So our answer is the second option. So my dear students, thank you very much for the participation. Please make sure that you all watch the programs. Please make sure that you watch the newspaper analysis and the daily show at 3 o'clock. We are giving you a lot of questions, and make sure that you make the good use of it. That is very essential for the success in the upcoming examinations. Tomorrow at 12:30 I shall be back again with the newspaper analysis, the Hindu analysis of today's newspaper, February 12. So thank you very much for the participation. We shall meet again. Study enthusiastically. It is finally the enthusiasm that is going to help you out. Goodbye.